Most Procreate patterns feel stiff because you're designing in a square. By stretching your canvas to a 2:1 ratio, exactly 3000 by 1500 pixels, you force the eye to move horizontally, and your pattern looks more complex and interesting. In the next 10 minutes, I'm showing you the exact math to set this up so your edges align perfectly without a single visible seam. Let's get into it. So let's set up the canvas that we're going to use today. Let's come up to the top right and tap on the plus icon, and we'll tap on the other plus icon to enter in new dimensions. So what we're going to be working with today is a width of 3000 pixels and a height of 1500 pixels. I'm still going to keep it at a DPI of 300, and for my particular iPad, it gives me a maximum layer of 115 layers. Once you're happy with that, just simply tap on the check icon in the top right, but I'm actually going to cancel because I've already created one, which you can see here. So I'm simply going to tap on that, and my canvas now opens up. So as you can see, it's a rectangular canvas, and this is going to give us some flexibility later on once we create our pattern. What I'm going to do now is come up to the spanner icon, and I want to select my canvas. I want to put my drawing guide on here. So I'm going to turn my drawing guide on, but I don't want such a small grid of squares. So I'm going to tap on Edit Drawing Guide, and down here at the bottom at Grid Size, I'm going to increase that all the way up to max, which just gives me one center line vertically and one center line horizontally. Once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to tap on the check mark icon. Now what I'm going to do is introduce a stretched diamond template. And I'm going to do this by coming up to my wrench icon, tapping on that, tapping on Add, and I want to insert a photo. So I'm going to tap on Insert a Photo. That will open up my Photos app on my iPad. And I'm just going to find the one I want, tap on that, and it instantly imports it into the canvas. Now this is already at the correct size of 3000 pixels wide by 1500 pixels high. So I'm simply going to deselect that to accept it. Now, this is going to be the guide that I use to create my pattern. So when I start creating the pattern, I want to make sure that I'm creating on the inside of this particular diamond. That is my guide. I can go outside the boundaries every now and then, but I just have to be careful when I start testing my pattern that everything doesn't cross over each other. Okay, so let me come to my layers. I'm going to drag this layer right down to the bottom, so simply by tapping and holding on it and moving down to the bottom. My iPad sometimes goes a little bit funny like that. I'm simply going to then reduce the opacity by tapping on the N letter, sliding my opacity slider to the left. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to swipe to the left and lock that layer. So anything I want to now design, I'm going to put above this layer. The reason I've locked it is that prevents me from then accidentally drawing anything on that layer. Now, like a good cooking show, I've actually gone ahead and I've just created these doodles. No rhyme or reason to them. I was just simply having a little bit of fun. And I was using a gouache brush, the Gatsby brush. What I'm going to do now is above my diamond layer, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to select my color, this green color, and I'm going to fill my background with this color. Just going to drag and drop it on there. I don't really need my diamond template anymore, so I'm simply going to hide that by deselecting the check mark here. What I now need to do is to create duplicates of all my motifs and the background and move each of those into the four corners so we can start creating our pattern. So what I'm actually going to do is open up my group with all the colors in, and I'm going to press and drag my background into that group. Sometimes Procreate does this, so you've got to be a little bit quicker. Just drag it up there and reposition it so that it's at the bottom of everything else. Now I need to make 4 more copies of this group. So I'm simply swiping to the left, tapping on duplicate, selecting my original group first, swiping to the left, duplicating it. We'll do that again, swiping to the left, duplicating it, and one more time, selecting the original group, swiping to the left and duplicating it. Now my original group is at the bottom. I'm simply going to press hold it and move it to the top of all the other groups and hide it for now. The other 4 copies, I'm going to hide the top 3 and select the bottom group. Now to start moving it, I'm going to tap on my arrow icon at the top of the screen. I'm going to come down to the bottom and make sure snapping and magnetics are both turned on and distance and velocity are both turned up to max. And I'm simply going to first drag this up to the middle and then drag it to the left so it snaps into that top left quadrant. Deselect it, come back to the layers, hide that group, make the next group visible, select it by tapping on that layer, selecting the arrow icon, making sure snapping is still turned on. Now I'm going to move it up again to the middle. This time I'm going to swipe it, move it to the right until it snaps in place in that top right quadrant. Deselect. Come back to my layers, hide that layer, select the next group, select the layer, tap on my arrow icon. This time I'm going to move it down to the middle till it snaps, and then to the left so it snaps into the bottom left quadrant, and deselect. Come back to my layers, hide that layer, select the next layer, select my arrow icon, move this down to the middle and across to the right so it snaps in the bottom right corner, and deselect. So if I now show all the other layers, you can see that I have moved a copy of that original layer into each of the 4 corners. I now need to show my original layer, which was in the middle, and I moved it to the top, so I'll make that visible. But obviously, because it originally had a background layer, it's going to hide everything beneath it. So I'm simply going to select that background layer, swipe to the left, and delete it. I don't need it anymore. So that now has given us the basis of our pattern. So now what I want to do is to start testing this pattern to see if it actually does repeat okay. So I'm going to come back to my layers. I'm going to tap on the bottom layer, tap on the thumbnail and choose flatten. Select the next group above it, tap on the layer thumbnail and choose flatten. Choose the next layer above, tap on the thumbnail and choose flatten. And choose the next layer above, tap on the thumbnail and choose flatten. So what that has done is for each of those groups, it's flattened all of those layers just onto one layer. I'm then going to merge all of those layers together simply by swiping them together with 2 fingers, and that has now merged all of those onto the one layer. If I tap on the check mark, you can see they'll be hidden. So I still have my top layer, which is the original diamond group that I was working with. So what I want to do is actually just make a copy of that just as a backup in case anything happens. So I'm going to select that layer, swipe to the left and choose duplicate, and then simply hide it. With this original layer group, I'm going to tap on the thumbnail and I'm going to choose flatten with that as well. Now I want to merge this with the layer beneath, so I'm going to tap once on that and choose merge down. So now we have everything on one layer. Now what I need to do is to make copies of this layer, 3 more copies, so I can put one of each copy into the 4 corners. So I'm simply going to swipe to the left and duplicate, select the original, swipe to the left and duplicate, select, swipe to the left and duplicate. So now I have 4 copies of that original layer. I now need to resize each of these copies just so it's the size of one of these quadrants. So what I'm going to do is tap on the top layer, swipe to the right to select the other layers beneath it, tap on my arrow icon, make sure snapping and magnetics are turned on. Now I'm going to tap and hold on the bottom right-hand corner, you see a blue circle here. I'm going to tap and hold on that and drag it until it snaps into the center of the canvas. And there you go. So that has now snapped into the center, and that has reduced the size of all of those layers that I had selected. So I'm simply going to deselect the arrow icon. I'm going to come back to my layers, because now what I want to do is move each of these layers into the quadrants. So I'm going to tap on the top layer to select it, tap on my arrow icon, and I'm simply going to drag it straight across to the right until it snaps into place and deselect. Now the next one I'm going to move down and over to the right, to the bottom right-hand quadrant. So I'm going to come back to my layers and select the next layer, tap on my arrow icon, drag it down until it snaps to the bottom, and then drag it over to the right until it snaps into place and deselect. So the last one I want to move straight down into the bottom left-hand quadrant. So I'll tap the next layer, tap my arrow icon, and move it down until it snaps into place. And now I'm going to come back to my spanner, to canvas, and turn off my drawing guide. So that now gives us our new pattern. So by using a stretched diamond guide, it has allowed us to basically achieve a false half brick layout of a pattern. And that introduces a lot more variety, and it makes your pattern flow a lot better, and it actually makes your pattern look a lot more complex. If you use a straight grid repeat, that's okay, but often you can really detect the seams and the straight lines evident in such a layout. Stay tuned for the next video, where I take a skinny diamond template and I create a more complex and visually interesting pattern out of that. So until next time, don't sweat the pixels. I'll catch you soon.